Father, we thank you for yet again showing up when we gather in your name. We thank you that you were part of the conversation that we just had with Grace, and that you really have been working so much in her life, and that we get the opportunity to share it with other people. Amen.
Amen.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing, Tim?
Yeah, I'm alright. You know, mixed bag.
Yeah.
Productive. It's been like a good productive week. Most of the stuff I need to see done. I did have a physio appointment yesterday though.
What for?
My wrists. And turns out I have RSI.
What's that?
Repetitive strain injury.
Oh, is that from typing, or is it from...
I think it's from literally like the entirety of my lifestyle. For the entirety of my life. Like piano, violin, guitar, video games, typing, writing, badminton. Like pretty much everything I do is very wrist intensive.
Yeah.
So over the years, that has weakened my wrists.
So
now, not most of the time, but if I do something intense,
okay,
like it gets painful and I have to rest it, which is fun. So technically there's nothing wrong with my wrists, like nothing's damaged. They're just weak.
Yeah.
So I just can't do things for as long anymore. So it's just now like I've got to invest in some ergonomic equipment for like using a computer and stuff.
Okay. What's that like? One of those... Like
a wrist pad, yeah.
Yeah, one of those nice gelled pad things.
Well, I've actually...
Wrist on when
I've
you're
got a really...
using.
I bought one that's like... This like softish, like hardish silicone plastic thing.
Yeah.
But it's got like mouse feet on the bottom, so it can move around the desk. So you stick your wrist on it, and it like it moves around with your mouse.
Nice.
Which should be snazzy. But yeah, so it's just basically I've got to try like every ergonomic thing under the sun until I find something that works. But there we go, that's alright, it's not a big deal. I figured doing software engineering, you know, in computer science for a degree, I was going to bound to get it at some point in my life, so may as well figure out how to deal with it earlier rather than later.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm alright. How are you doing? Yeah,
I am good. I really feel like I should decide how I am before we start these conversations, because every time I'm like, how am I? No, I'm really good. I'm very chill. Yeah. I just haven't really got that much going on. Like, I've got one assignment and one exam coming up in like a couple of weeks' time. And so, yeah, I'm just plodding along, having a good time.
Yeah.
The weather's been nice. I'm having a fire pit later with my housemate.
Lovely.
Well, I'm also making lasagna and garlic bread for dinner, which like is our favourite thing, because so we make this garlic bread, which is a tiger loaf, you know, like a tiger loaf, like sliced in half, horizontally, yeah. Then like opened like a book, and then we make garlic butter and I spread it all over with some parsley, and then we cover it in like cheddar and mozzarella. Oh,
this sounds incredible.
And then put it in the oven.
My mouth is watering.
And it is so good. We actually made it, last year in the summertime, and it was just like, it was so good. And we couldn't finish it all, so we got to have it twice because we both got leftovers to take home, which was nice. So yeah, I'm very excited for dinner tonight.
I'm going to make that and do that at some point. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, I'm good.
You're just living the post-dis life.
I am living the post-dis life. Yeah, my dissertation was handed in a couple of weeks ago, so I've just been chilling because that was like stressful. Yeah. Like nothing else has ever been stressful. But it is now gone.
Sounds like a dream.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Right.
I have a Highfield headline.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So, SJ sent me another voice note, SJ. She said that, so most of the Highfield students will know that her uncle has been like partially deaf for a long time. It's like since before SJ was born. And so he went and had an operation last week to get some of his hearing back, and there was just so much prayer that he would be okay, that it would go well, that there wasn't going to be any infections or anything. He had the operation, it seemed to go well, he went home, but then the next day he plummeted and had to be rushed into hospital, which was quite scary for their whole family, obviously, but SJ got us on it, and we were praying, and he is now stable, breathing by himself, and came out of sedation, which is
all huge, amazing stuff.
Huge and amazing, yeah. So we are praising God for that. Thank you, Lord. It was awesome. Also, obviously, if you'd like something to pray for, please pray for SJ's uncle, because he is not out of the woods yet, but yeah, it's cool. It's awesome. How are you doing? Have you got any cool testimonies from the last week or so?
Yeah, so small group this week. We were, as part of looking at Sabbath, as we've been talking about, we looked at simplicity.
Yeah.
So at the end of the week, we challenged each other as a group on how can we simplify our lives. Like, what is there something we could give up that we don't need?
It's a hard question to ask.
Yeah. So as a result, I ended up somehow, I think, to encourage others to do it as well, I've done all of the things.
Wait, what? So you were just like, I'm giving up everything, I'm gonna live the naked life, I'm not gonna have any clothes, I'm not gonna eat anything.
Yeah, not quite that far. No, so I think it's because I was I watch a lot of Netflix, so I was like, I'm gonna give up Netflix, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
And then someone else was like, TikTok's a big one for me. So I do spend a lot of time on Instagram. So now,
so you're giving that up too?
So now I've uninstalled all social media on my phone.
Whoa.
I've uninstalled every streaming service.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. I've uninstalled about 8 or 9 apps. I had a lot of options.
Oh my goodness.
And I have also agreed to not look at my phone an hour after I wake up, and then for an hour before I go to bed.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you do that this morning and last night?
Yeah, I did. And best night of sleep I've gotten in ages.
Yay! Praise God! That's cool.
So it's cool. And
so
we've agreed to do it for a week. So to be honest, I'm probably gonna try and keep it up. But I just read.
What you just read? What did you do when you woke up this morning for an hour? Got up and did things, or did you lie in bed?
I just lay in bed.
Doing what?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah.
Nice.
Just vibed for an hour.
Just fun.
To be honest, it was probably more I kept on waking up and falling back asleep.
Bit of dozing.
Yeah, just chilling. It was great. I loved it.
Nice. Oh, do you know what? I'm really tempted to do that.
Do it. Maybe not.
Do you turn it off, or what do you do with it?
I turn my phone off.
You turn it off,
but I do that anyway.
Sleep.
Yeah.
Do you?
Because it's much more. It's better for the phone. Better for your battery.
See, I don't. I always I put it on sleep mode, because you can do that on the focus stuff now on an iPhone. You're an Android person, so you don't know what I'm talking about. But there's these new focuses that they brought in, where you can set it up for different. You can have different notifications come through in different settings, and I have a sleep one, which basically just shuts everything off, and it's overridden if somebody calls it 3 times in a row. Okay. So if someone was to ring me in the middle of the night 3 times, basically, yeah, you can. That's my sleep one. Is basically do not disturb, and then you can have other things for other ones anyway. But I don't know. It's turning it off, because I turn my phone off all day on Sabbath, which has proved interesting because I really have to trust that when I make plans with people, they're not going to change it.
Yeah.
But doing it overnight, I don't know. I just feel if my parents needed me in the middle of the night.
Why would they need you in the middle of the night?
They never have, but they might. I don't know. Well, what if my housemate went out and needed me to come and get her because she broke her leg? I don't know. That's just things that go through my brain that make me irrationally think that people are going to need me in the middle
Once
of the night.
upon a time, in a pre-mobile phone era...
Yeah. I mean, if she had her phone, she'd call an ambulance, not me.
Yeah. People's phones were off. You can turn your phone off at night.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I should.
If I know something's happened, like if I've like I don't know had a friend that like something's happened that day and they were just like I don't know in a bit of a state and I'm like oh yeah I'm about if you need me.
Yeah.
Then I will leave my phone on.
Yeah.
But if nothing's happened, turn it off.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time somebody rang me in the middle of the night. Probably never. Actually, that's not true. Somebody definitely has done that before, but it was because they were drunk. It wasn't an important thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to consider doing that. Get back to me next week, and maybe I will
next
have
week
done it.
we'll
had the best
see
night's
where
sleep
you're
of
at
my
with
life.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, who have we got today, Rhiannon?
We have spoken to Grace Kennedy, who is a nurse. She's a student. She's a student.
She's a student nurse.
About
She's in
to
fourth
graduate.
year.
Yes.
She does
adult
a
and
joint
child nursing.
honours adult and child.
Yep.
Which is why she's in fourth year in a nurse.
Yep.
Yeah, she's been at Highfield since like the second week of uni. She moved in on a Sunday, so next Sunday she found Highfield and stuck with it. She'll tell you all of this herself.
Yeah, we don't need to repeat this. But yeah, she's from Northern Ireland. She's got a very nice accent. I do like talking to Grace because it's just like peaceful and you know what I mean.
It is a great accent. I do like a Northern Ireland accent.
Yeah. But yeah, she's had a cool life.
She has.
So she's got lots to say.
But we'll let her tell it.
Yeah.
Because she'll do it much better than us.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
are we not just gonna sit here and just kind of like try and
give you the whole podcast without you listen to it? So we'll shut up and we'll let you enjoy.
Yeah, go for it. Grace, hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah. So I had my last lecture. Exciting time.
Our last lecture ever. How does it feel?
Very underwhelming. Yeah, but in a nice way. I feel like if it was too much, it'd be that like I'd get too sentimental and then I would be like sobbing. So, well, not sobbing. I'm very ready.
Get out the waterworks.
Yeah, it's quite nice. It was just like very casual, you know.
You just walk away like you do every day.
Yeah, literally.
But it's the last time.
Yeah. I feel like lectures aren't really like the highlight of my year.
No, exactly.
Like, usually it's pretty dull, so
Not quite sad to be living behind.
That's one thing I'm like, yeah, that's okay. I can go. No more 9 AMs.
Oh, that's a nice feeling. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, 9 AMs are vile.
Yeah, this is true.
Working world.
Yeah, but somehow I find like getting up for a 9 AM worse than getting up for like a 7:30 shift. And I know like makes zero sense, but some reason getting to uni for 9 feels worse than getting to the hospital for 7:30. Yeah.
Weird.
Maybe it's just because do you like being on placement as opposed to like okay
Compared to lectures.
Something about being on campus that early I think feels weird, whereas being in a hospital it feels more normal. Maybe that's what it is.
That's good though.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, who are you?
I'm Grace. I'm a 4th year adult and child nursing student. I go to Highfield. I've been going since first year. I think I tried it on like my first ever Sunday. Well, I moved in on a Sunday and then I tried Highfield like the Sunday after. And I was like, yeah, this is it. I've been going since.
So, where are you from?
Well, that's a tricky question. So I was born in Northern Ireland, so that's where my accent's from. But I've moved about a fair bit, so I don't really like associate one place as where I'm from.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where have you been?
So I grew up as a missionary kid. So up until the age of 16, I was sort of back and forth between Northern Ireland and Malawi, which is in Southeast Africa. In case people don't, people probably do know that. I feel like it's quite a but anyway. So most of my childhood was there, and then I moved back to Northern Ireland when I was 16, and I was there for 2 years, and then I came to Southampton. So
I don't think I realised you were there for so long. Like 16's a long time to be down there.
Because I was kind of like back and forth. So I was born in Northern Ireland. My parents lived in Malawi before I was born, and then my mum came back to have me because where they lived was quite like, it was like a very rural area. So if something had gone wrong, like they'd have to travel like 4 hours to get to like a proper hospital. So she flew back, and then I moved out there when I was 12 weeks old. To the village.
Wow.
Village lifestyle. I was there till I was like 2.5, and then I moved back to Northern Ireland until I was 8, and then I moved back to Malawi until I was 16, and I moved back to Northern Ireland. But yeah, most of my life has been in Northern Ireland. Not Northern Ireland,
Malawi.
Yeah, get confused myself.
Awesome. Well, I want to ask all about it, but I feel like that comes with your testimony.
Yeah.
So maybe we should ask. Come Dine with Jesus first.
Yeah. So, come dine with Jesus. Jesus is coming for dinner. 3-course meal. No miracles from Jesus. What do you cook?
So I've really been trying to think about this, and I was saying to Rhiannon, I literally don't really have like a favourite food. So this has been like,
Which I think is mad.
I don't know. Like I've never had one food and been like, this is it. This is like, I could eat this for the rest
This
of
is
my
the
life.
one.
Yeah, like I'm still waiting for that moment. So please be praying. No. But I think I'd want it to be like associated with memories. Like if Jesus came, I'd want him to have a little bit of like a flavour of different like special things in my life. So I think for a starter, I'm glad we actually talked about Malawi because that kind of adds context. There was this restaurant there called Hosteria, and it was like this amazing Italian restaurant. This like missionary family lived there and like had this like random Italian restaurant. It was so good, and they had like bruschetta as a starter there, but it wasn't just like your average bruschetta. It was like chunks of garlic in it, and like it was just really good and like really fresh. So that would be my starter.
Nice.
Something from
good.
there. And then for a main, it's really boring, but probably like a Christmas dinner. Like I feel like there's just something about it that makes it better than a normal roast.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think it's because it's on Christmas.
Yeah, I get it. Well, it's also got
And-
like 12 components as opposed to maybe like 6 or 7.
Like
Like a normal.
Christmas dinner
Exactly.
with Jesus. That's just a
Yeah.
birthday party.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd be like, happy birthday.
Would you like pretend it was Christmas and do all the
I
crackers
think it would be so class. Like,
That would be fun.
Jesus. It would be, yeah. So probably. And also like it would just feel like, yeah, like you said, like special, you know?
Yeah.
Like with all these meals, I'd want like the vibes and like the memories to be like with it, you know, somehow like he could like feel that too, you know?
Yeah.
And then for dessert, my dad makes the best rhubarb crumble.
Oh.
And he grows rhubarb like in our garden, so it's all like very fresh. And honestly, it's like taste of childhood, you know. So have to be a rhubarb crumble.
I love rhubarb crumble.
I feel like that would be, yeah.
My mum does this thing where she puts like toasted oats in the crumble as well as like all the biscuity stuff. It's so good.
Because it's like, for me, the best bit is that like gooey bit, you know, between the fruit and the, yeah, that's the best bit of a crumble. Yeah.
I think Jesus would like a rhubarb crumble.
I don't know.
Why?
Rhubarb.
You don't like rhubarb?
Oh, you can't. No.
No.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's funny. My family, we all hate rhubarb. Other than my dad, he loves it. It's like occasionally, like he'll like get some in or something, or like, oh, what are you doing? That's disgusting. And just like sort of bully him for liking rhubarb.
Well, we can join forces with your dad.
Yeah,
and
he
bully
can
you.
Oh
come
no,
and
that's not a good idea.
have dinner with our family.
Yeah.
He'll be very welcomed into the rhubarb household.
Right, next question. Would you tell us about your testimony, how you came to faith, if you even did come to faith? You kind of were like brought up in it, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell us about that.
So my family were a Christian family, surprisingly. And yeah, they've definitely been big like influencers in my faith. My dad is a doctor, my mum's a teacher, and they kind of like were missionaries through their jobs more than like, I don't know, like, yeah, like cliche missionaries, not cliche, just like what you think of cliches as being a missionary. they kind of like took it through like serving more than like, I guess like well, they're still biblical. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but they very much like raised us with that, and with like a very much a worldly view. So that was cool. Yeah, I definitely like. I would say I still came to faith because my parents very much didn't force it on me.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'd bring me to church and stuff, but like they didn't baptize me when I was a baby. Like they wanted it to be my choice. So when I was 13, I was baptized, and like I thought like I definitely believed in Jesus and like that he was raised and everything, but I don't think I fully like understood Christianity until I was like probably like 16. Like my teenager years, so like I was very like chill, like I wasn't really like a wild, but like I didn't really understand like why people committed things to God, or like I wouldn't like really like object to things, or like I don't think I really understood like what it was to live like a Christian. Not that I wasn't necessarily living like a Christian, I just didn't really understand like
why.
It was just kind of like I just kind of was. And then I think probably because like nothing massively tested my faith until I was 16. Like obviously like schools like, you know, can be like tricky at times, but when I was 16 was when we moved, and that was when I felt like I really needed to depend on something. Like Africa to Northern Ireland is a bit of a rogue choice. It definitely like shook my world a bit, and it was like a massive culture shock for me to be in like a Western world, because a lot of my conscious memory in Northern Ireland, like I don't really remember a lot of my childhood there. So yeah, and the school I went to was quite challenging. It was like in Northern Ireland. Yeah, I love my school in Malawi, but in Northern Ireland you have like these things called grammar schools, so they're like quite high pressured, and I remember like on my first day of school, like I was literally like in completely new world, and then our like head of year was like, oh, you know, you're all just grains of sand on a beach and no one's ever going to care about you. And I was like, right, so here we are. And it was quite a like shock, because I come from this like international school where like, you know, you welcome everyone, and like I had loads of friends, and like just my world was like there. So I really struggled with that, and it was just a different way of life. Like there was so much pressure put on like popularity and the way you looked and what you did, and like if you wanted to be cool you had to do like all this other stuff, which I wasn't like, I don't know, it was just very like different. So I think in that time I really had to depend on God. Like that was when I was like, oh, like God is stable in my life. And I used to love going to church because it was like the only time I felt like I had something that was still familiar when everything else had changed. So yeah, that was probably like when I really like understood Christianity and like what it really meant to me. Like I had faith for sure before, but like it was when, yeah, I think I really needed that like testing to, I don't know, like really grow in it.
So did you get baptised when you were 16?
No, I didn't want to like redo it, because I think I still like, I never like didn't believe in God, and because I'd already been baptised when I was 13, I was like, well, but yeah, I mean even then like those 2 years were like pretty shocking for me. I definitely like lived more wildly than I did in Malawi. Not that I say this, it really wasn't very like extreme, but like I think I just like got myself a bit lost and felt quite lost, and like identity is like a huge thing that I still kind of struggle with, like, and so having that in God was so valuable for me. Like when I couldn't place it in like a worldly place or in what was supposed to be my home, like it felt very much like God was then my identity. Yeah, but yeah, I mean like my faith's definitely been a journey since then, because it was such a hard transition. Like I struggled quite a lot with like mental health for a few years after, and still like a bit now, but I really put a lot of pressure on myself to like fit in, and felt like I had to like look a certain way, and I think just all that pressure and doing your A-levels and everything, trying to get into university like while all of this was happening, it just left me with like quite a lot of struggles. So it's been something I've had to like work through with God, which has been hard. Like there's definitely been some angry moments. But yeah, it's a journey, and I'm definitely like, yeah, I mean, that's a whole other part of my testimony. I don't know. How do I just keep going? Yeah.
I think it'd be great to go into that side of things because, like, I mean, last week we talked to Josh.
Who's that?
yeah, whatever. You should know who your boyfriend is.
Should clarify.
So, and obviously, he was healed, and like it was all a very sudden thing. Like someone prayed and God just took it away and sorted it. What was your experience with it like?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not like Josh's. Like, he had very much like you say, like rapid healing, which I think for him in that circumstance is what he needed to like show him God. Like for me, maybe God decided to do it a bit differently because I already had that relationship with him. But it's definitely like I'd say I'm healed from a lot of things, but I wouldn't say I'm fully healed. Like, I still struggle a lot with like my body image and pressure and like anxiety a lot of the times, but like I don't know, for me it was definitely like a gradual process, and it wasn't like I prayed for healing loads. Like I'd pray and I'd get my friends to pray, and especially like in first year I remember struggling still quite a lot with it all because it's all quite fresh, and like I never really experienced like a miraculous supernatural like on the spot healing, but it was like little moments of peace with God and little moments of supernatural joy that he gave me in times where I was really struggling. And even just like I feel like a lot of times God gives you things to like get through those times which like help you in the long run. Like all the friends I've had and people like Josh, and like having a church like Highfields, like he's blessed me to be able to get to the point I'm at today where I'm so much better. And even like things like medical, like I know I'm like nursing student, but like things like going to therapy and stuff, like that's still God is in that. Like even though it feels like in a way like I struggled with that as a Christian because I was like, oh, surely I don't have to go to therapy. If I'm a Christian, God should just heal me.
Yeah, like you're turning to like an earthly means of healing almost.
And it almost felt like wrong in that sense, but actually like God was so in that. And like my therapist was like an avid atheist, and she used to try and almost like not turn my Christianity, but she used to be like, oh, surely you're feeling all this pressure as well because you're a Christian, and like Christianity is like perfectionism and all this stuff. And actually it was such a good opportunity to be like, no, like
so
this is what Christianity is. Like I could so openly talk to her about Jesus and like how much he helps me, and like how for me like he's the biggest thing getting me through it. And she was like, oh, okay. Like it was such like, you know what I mean, like God puts these opportunities in your life even when you're not, like I don't know, like it felt wrong at points, but then I was like, actually God gave people like therapists, and he gave them that knowledge to be able to help people through these things. And like,
but also like he might have, you know, put you in that position so that you could then go and plant that seed in your therapist's life. Like it's amazing when you think about it like that.
No, for sure. And like now, like I would say that God has healed me. Like I would say that quite boldly, because compared to like what I was like in Northern Ireland in first year, like I really struggled with like I get these really like annoying thoughts and not be able to like get rid of them, and it would like bug me for weeks, and I'd be so exhausted because all I could think about was things I didn't want to be thinking about. And like that doesn't massively affect me as much anymore, and that was like my main thing. And I feel like what I experience now is more like normal levels of what everyone gets a bit anxious and everyone gets a bit sad, and that's normal. Especially like I feel like when people think of Christians getting healed, they think it has to be like every day's perfect then because God's healed you and you're going to be this amazing joyful person. And I'd hope people didn't think I was like a sad person. But like there's definitely still like I don't know, I feel like it's not just like I'm healed but I'm not like perfect, you know, but like God still healed me, but it doesn't mean I don't like sad every now and again, you know.
I love that. Not that you get sad, but like they're like, you know, they're like actually it's human, you know, it's what we all often experience. And the fact that like actually you can look back at like say your therapy and be like, no, God was really in that. It's great because like even things like medication, like it is easy to have that view of like, oh, but you know, why aren't I just relying on God? But actually like that's not wrong as Christians to take medication, you know. Like I rely on it for my Crohn's like every week. Like that it's not that I'm not relying on God. It's just that, like, you know, God created the world, and part of that was creating medication, or things that will help us, that we would then be able to use to make medication. So things like, I don't know, if you are in that sort of position, I just think we should be very clear. Like, if you feel like you need help, yes, pray, but that doesn't mean you can't turn to, like, therapy or medication or stuff like that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's like a big flaw in Christianity in a way, is like, for sure I still believed every time I prayed that God could heal me, for sure. Like, it was never like a doubt, but it was never like, if he didn't, I wouldn't believe in him. Like, and I feel like people can put that pressure on to be like, oh well, God hasn't healed me, so God's not real, or like, oh, God hasn't done this, so he clearly favours that person. Like, I could so easily compare myself to Josh and think, well, why did Josh get it, like, in miraculous healing, for example, not just on Josh, and like I didn't, but like, because God uses it in different ways for different people, and like, for him that's what he needed, and for me going through this journey has probably like left me more appreciative of like where I'm at now, and like also being able, like in nursing, like I feel like I can relate to some people now who come in to wards and like things who are like struggling, you know, because I'm like, oh, I understand mental health, like, and I understand how hard it is, or like friends who struggle, and like everything happens for a reason, but like it really does, you know. And
well, I think a lot of the time God can use these kinds of things to teach us, you know, to trust on him, to rely on him, to, I don't know, maybe there's, you know, it sounds to me like you have been depending on God your whole life, and that's what he wants, right? He wants you to depend on him, and that does not to say that he's, you know, doing that in a malicious way, being like, oh, I'm gonna make sure that Grace has mental health issues so that she depends on me all the time. But it's teaching you to trust on him even when you feel awful and when you're having a bad day.
For sure. Like, yeah. No, I definitely you've summed up pretty well. Yeah. No, it's definitely true. Like, I think I held a lot of resentment against God for a while. Like, surely there was an easier way, God, you could have done that than literally putting me through the extremes of going away when you're 16, like, you know. But actually I look back on it now as being such a different person for having gone through that, and being so much, I would like to think I'm kinder from it, in that I can understand like people, and I don't know, you kind of just have a lot more like grace for situations and things. So yeah,
I think it's one of those weird ones as well, because like so often, like, yes, God can heal us of like this sort of thing, like sometimes he chooses not to straight away, so that we can like, or sometimes he just chooses not to, so that either he can use it or we can learn through it, which really does sound like that's what happened with you. But I think like sometimes it's easy to forget that, like, just because we have something doesn't mean God gave it to us. Like, sometimes things just, like, you know, we live in a broken world, sometimes things go wrong, and then God just decides to step in and use it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'm like a firm believer that, you know, all good things come from God, and bad things in the world don't come from God. Well, or like the enemy, you know. So in that sense, like, I don't think God's a kind God. Like, I don't think he would want me to be struggling as much as I did, but at the same time, like, God's provision in that has got me to where I am today. And like, I kind of struggle with the whole like God has a plan for everything, and I think that really like, I found that difficult whenever I was moving and like when going through all that stuff, because I was like, well, why is this his plan for me? But actually, like, it's so complex that you just don't, like, you just can't know. And I think actually just accepting, like, in some of those situations, like, you just don't know. Like, it's one of the questions I'm definitely going to ask God when I get to heaven. I'll be like, so what was that about? But I just know he's going to have like the perfect answer and put me right in my place. I'm going to be like, right, okay. Like, I feel like, well, if I didn't do this and this wouldn't happen. I was like, okay. So yeah, I think just having, like, it took me a while to get to that point where I was like even remotely like okay with that, But yeah, I feel like there's no point, like, I don't know, stressing about it too much, because God knows, and just have to trust that.
What did you do in those moments that you talked about, like resentment and, like, I guess anger? Like, because that's, like, I think probably something that's quite common, actually. Like, in those moments where you're like, why has this happened? Like, what did you do?
Like, I'd love to say I was like perfect Christian and was like, oh, you know, turn back to my Bible and realised, you know, in the scripture, but like I really was not good. I don't know, like I struggled, like I probably just ignored God in those moments for a while, like didn't want to acknowledge him, didn't want to, like, you know, if you're angry you're kind of like, well, you know, I didn't like turn away from it necessarily, but I wasn't invested in it, like even in Northern Ireland when I was going through it all, like God was still there, but I wasn't, like, coming to uni is really where I like then kind of was like I saw God in it and I depended on him in a way, but it wasn't like a living with him kind of still, like I was still kind of like trying to do it myself and like kind of like coming to God for different things every now and again, but not like letting him help me with it, you know. I think it's really easy in those times to turn away from God, like, and I think if I could have gone back I would have like wanted to be like let him into that more. I think it's just like, I mean, it's a hard question, like I don't think I handled it very well, so I mean now when I think about it and I think about the resentment I have, like, because I still do, and so it's so tempting for me to be like, oh well, you know, that's really like I'm not going to talk to you today, God, because that's really annoying, or like, oh well, I'm not going to invest in it. But actually, like, I've seen also how much I needed him with that, so I think it's almost like having that realization and seeing, and because I've had so much joy in times where I shouldn't have been joyful, and peace when I shouldn't have been, like, once you've experienced that, even when you're feeling that resentment, and once you've asked God for that with that, it's so much like outweighs any sort of like resentment or hatred you would have at that point, that like it kind of like, I don't know, I think I clung on to that, and through clinging on to that, like it kind of almost like counteracted. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no,
like I'm kind
definitely.
of waffling, but I'm hoping that makes some sense.
Yeah, I think so.
It kind of just like outweighed all the negatives.
I've been reading this book recently about prayer, and there was this bit in it that struck me the other day that just said, so often do we, when we're having a bad day, do we think, oh, this is like, I don't have anything to praise God for today, like I don't have anything to be thankful for, so I'm just gonna ignore him and I'm not gonna worship and I'm not gonna pray because like he didn't come through today, so you know, like, but actually it's mad, like Jesus didn't abdicate his throne because we had a bad day, like he's still on the throne and he's still the only thing that is always constant and always good. And so like it's really hard to sometimes turn and be like, I'm going to praise you in the middle of what feels like an absolute mess of a storm, because I don't feel like I have anything to praise you for today, but just the very fact that he is God is something to praise him about.
Yeah. And I don't know if my situation's like not made it easier, like I can imagine like what some people go through, like I would like I thought I had it pretty rough, but if I think about like other people I've seen like in placement stuff go through, I'm like, if that was me, I'd really, really struggle to like praise God. But maybe in my circumstance, because it was like kind of that instability that was causing it all, like having God, like you said, like in control and knowing that, it made it easier for me to almost like cling on to that goodness. But like, yeah, I mean, I guess regardless, like it's still like something that, yeah, I've learned from it that I would recommend. But yeah, I don't know, I can see like, yeah, I would never like blame someone. Like if someone came to me and was like, I'm really angry at God, I would be like, I can sympathize with you with that, like it is really hard. And yeah, but
So what's it been like since you've come to uni, your faith and your journey?
Yeah, like definitely, like I feel like it's very up and down. like throughout everything I've always been like a Christian, but I mean, like I said, in first year I was still struggling quite a lot, and with having things like Highfield, and I think coming to a church which I got to like choose, and I got to and like see you and things, like there's so much support around you in uni, and you have all these like amazing influences and like Christians in your life, that really helped. Like just it's such a like good support circle in that sense. But yeah, I think like it's definitely been up and down. Like, you know, first year can be like your friends are all going out, and like I definitely like fell into that a little bit, like in like just doing that quite a lot. But and I still like go out every now and again, like, but it's not like I don't know, I think I still had quite a lot of my happiness is still like in doing things like that. And it's just because I feel like I always say like Christian growth is such a process. Like I feel like you only give up, well, not even give up, you only like prioritize certain things once you've come to a point in your faith where you're like, actually I want to do that. Like there's no point trying it before you get to a point where you're like, I really want to, in a sense. Like, and I think that's the thing, like first year I was just very much like not at that point, whereas now, like even now, like I'm finding things in my life where more and more I'm like, actually I'm ready to commit that to God then, because I now understand it and now I want to, like, I don't know. But yeah, since uni, like definitely that. I mean, like I would say I'm such a better person for it now. Like I feel a lot better now in uni, and I've loved uni. Like uni's been one of the best things, and I'm very sad to leave, but yeah, but it's definitely up and down, and like still like probably like a daily basis I struggle with things, and like just doubts, and but I feel like that is something that Christians don't talk about, but it's normal. Like, but it's not like it's not like rocked my faith, but it's, you know, there's different things I feel like that. I don't know, yeah, I feel like I'm waffling now. I've got
yeah. No, I totally get that.
Yeah.
So do you have any like awesome, encouraging, or even just like little stories from your faith, or things that you've seen God do that you would like to share?
Yes, I guess. I mean, I'd say the biggest one is literally everything we've been talking about, but like in terms of healing, that's a big one for me. I think like I feel like I see God like every day in my life. Like God just gives me so much peace a lot of the time, and I feel like that's when I really feel God. And especially like recently I've just been very stressed with exams and finishing uni and the pressure of having to like leave, and like it's all just quite a lot, but I've had such like, I don't know, like moments of joy and peace in that, which have been so encouraging. Yeah, in terms of like big things, this year I've seen some like, I had some pretty big like testimonies. Yeah, there's like shout out again, one of my friends this year got like completely healed, which was really cool to see, like miraculous healing. Like there was a very big like thing in first term to like, there was a lot of stuff going on, and basically like she prayed about it and now she's like healed. And that was like, there's like things like that where you're like massive miracles that happen, but there's also like lots of little things, you know.
That's amazing. Yeah. Beautiful. So what was it like being a missionary kid? Because you say it just so like casually, and we've kind of gone away from it, but I'd like to talk about it a little bit, because it's not something that many of us get to experience. Like, what was it like? What was church like in Malawi?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I absolutely loved my childhood. I went to like a mixture of churches. So we were out with a Presbyterian organisation that was like our missionary organisation. So at first we went to this church, which was like, so when I first lived there I was in a village, but I was only quite young, so I didn't really remember a lot of it. But when I was older we went to this Presbyterian church in Malawi, and it was all in Chichewa, which is like the language they speak in the south of Malawi. And that was an interesting time. I used to find church so boring, I'm not gonna lie to you, I hated it, because my parents would be sitting there like understanding it, you know, and as a kid, like when it's in another language and it's like 3 hours long, Yeah, it was long.
You can't even remotely connect to what's going on.
And like the Sunday school was in Chichewa, and I was like, well, listen, I used to bring like these like little quiz adventure books to church, and I used to just do those for like 3 hours on a Sunday. But then we actually moved church to like a Pentecostal church, which was a whole different vibe. Like it was like people doing conga lines down the church, and it was great. Like no, I mean, being a missionary kid, like I definitely have a big appreciation for what I have in life. Like Malawi is a very poor country. I think while we were there, it was like 3rd poorest in the world at one point.
Wow.
So you see, like I grew up with poverty, like so you, I don't know, like I'm very grateful for everything in life I have now. But like seeing faith out there as well is crazy. Like Africans have like insane faith. Like we'd go to church and people would like have nothing, like literally nothing, and they'd be like on their knees praising God, and you're like, oh, okay, that's a bit of, you know, you've really got me there. But yeah, like it was, yeah, I loved it. It's weird, like, because I feel like for a lot of people it sounds like very different and very new, but for me it was so normal. Like that just was normal life. But like I think now I've lived in the UK, I realise how different it was.
Yeah, I mean that must have been a massive, I mean you said it was like a big transition, but that must have been a massive like culture shock and church shock, really.
Yeah, I was like, oh, everyone's very like conservative. But you know,
where's my conga line?
No, it's cool. Like, yeah, and my parents, like I said, are massive like influences of my faith, and I think it was such a like privilege for me to like grow up even just like being their missionary kid. Like I don't know, they just did so much for people out there and had such a like, so when they first moved, my brother was, it's like their first ever child, and I think he was like 3-4 months old, and they moved to like the middle of nowhere to just because God told them to, like, and I feel like that kind of thing mad. You're like, oh yeah. And yeah, I feel like they just had very much like servant hearts and very much were so trusting of God, to just like, even when we were there, when we were older, like those things that happened, you know, which are tricky when you're there and being so far away from family, and like it's so challenging. Like even as a missionary kid, you notice like I didn't really grow up around my grandparents or like most of my family. Like you'd see them every couple of years for a few weeks when you came home for a holiday, and there's big sacrifices that you have to make. Like my parents, when we moved back, they knew that I struggled loads because they could see it, and for them that must have been really hard to see, like almost feeling like they've put their child through that in a way, you know. Yeah. And it's like, it's good though, it's given me a really good grasp of what mission work is and how it's not all like, I feel like people think it's like this massive exciting great thing, and most of the time it's like I'd highly recommend, but like it's it's really hard, and like being a missionary is like tough, and God really tests you with a lot of things and puts you through a lot of hard things. So yeah, I don't know, I loved it. And now I've got this like, it's so cool when you bump into other like fellow missionary kids, because like there's like a weird like bond. Yeah. Yeah, it's such a unique experience. So yeah, cool. I loved it.
Does it make you want to go and do mission?
It does. I mean, that's kind of why I'm doing nursing. I guess because I used to like go around the wards sometimes with my dad, and you just kind of saw like the need for healthcare out there, and yeah, I've always known I wanted to help people, and I think nursing was just like a way of being able to easily do that abroad at some point. And yeah, so I definitely do. I don't know when. I feel like I'd quite like to get a bit more experience in the UK, but I'm actually doing a bit of, well, let's say like mission work next year. I'm doing Y1, which is like youth with a mission, and I'm doing a medical compassion discipleship training school, which cool. Basically is you like go do like biblical and medical lectures, and then I've got a few months of outreach, which I don't know where it's going to be, but it's usually one of the Pacific Islands or like Southeast Asia, and I'm doing like medical outreach, so it'll give me a little bit of a flavour of like what it is to be like a missionary in that sense and like follow God's calling, and I'm very excited for it. So yeah, I actually got accepted for it like last weekend, like officially accepted.
Oh, that's so cool.
So
How Oh, so exciting.
I'm excited.
Awesome. And is the goal to like long term, like go back to Malawi or like somewhere near there and do that?
Yeah, for sure. Like I definitely know, like for like little Gracie's sake, I need to work in like somewhere in Africa at some point as a nurse. But I think I want to keep Malawi as like my childhood home. Like, I feel like it can be quite stressful when you're in that kind of place and working, and I'd rather keep it as like my childhood, you know. But definitely somewhere. Like I'm pretty open to wherever. Josh is like, it has to be coastal, so I guess.
Well, he does do marine biology.
He does, yeah.
Has to be somewhere with dolphins.
But yeah, I think, yeah, definitely at some point I want to go abroad, but I'm not like too stressed about when. Like I think next year will be a good, like, you know, keep me satisfied for a little while. So yeah, the end goal eventually.
Awesome. Oh, I'm excited to see like where God calls you.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
This is when he's like, yeah, just go to Scotland.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Very cold.
Yeah.
Very wet.
Literally.
Yeah. Was there anything we can be praying for, Grace?
Well, for next year would be amazing. Yeah, I'm like very excited to do this YWAM, but I know it's also going to be quite challenging in a way, like being away from home for a little while, and it's really exciting, but it's also quite like a big thing. And I would love prayer that actually like it really does strengthen my faith, and that it really does, like I really love it. Nursing's been a bit challenging recently, so I'd really love to go and have that just revitalise my passion for it and be able to see why I'm doing what I'm doing. That'd be great. And then also just exams, but I feel like that's kind of,
it's a given at this time.
It's a given, isn't it? Yeah. So
yeah, sure. Let's pray.
Brilliant. Yeah,
let's pray.
Father, we thank you for Grace. We thank you for the time that we've been able to spend together today, chatting, and it's just been a really great conversation. And I really thank you and praise you for this opportunity that Grace has got coming up with YWAM. How exciting that's going to be, and what a great opportunity. And I pray that you would be really in it, God. That you would use it to not only just set Grace back on fire for nursing and in that side of her life, but actually you would use it as an opportunity to teach her how to learn to lean even deeper into you. And we thank you for the great example that she already sets of doing that as well. And we just pray for exams and the final, the lead up to graduation, that you would bless all of her work, all of her preparation, that it would be really fruitful, and she would do really well. Amen.
Amen. I just when I was praying, I got an image of a well. I don't know what it means for you, really, but I was reminded of the story of, you know, when Jesus is at the well and the woman's there, and he's like, she's like, are you the Son of God? And he's like, I am. And then she's like, I have to go and tell everybody. I don't know, maybe that's like, I feel like maybe that might be how God's calling you into mission, you know, like you have had that experience where you're like, oh, I found the Son of God, so you need to go out and tell people about it. And maybe you'll need to do something with a well.
At first I thought you said a whale.
No,
like,
well.
I was like, oh. It makes more sense. Yeah. Scully?
Oh, thanks for coming.
Yeah, it's been great chatting
awesome.
to you. So much fun. If there's anything that's been said today that has piqued your interest, do come chat to us. I'm sure Grace would love to chat to you as well. So do let us know. You can message myself or Rhiannon on Facebook. You can message Stumbling to Eternity on Instagram. And you can email us at stumblingtoeternity@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'd also love to hear any stories of what God's been doing in your week.
Yes.
No matter how big or how small, they're all praiseworthy, and we'd love to hear them. So thank you for listening, and we'll chat to you next week.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.